Welcome, guys, to the SBN Network podcast. I'm your host, Steph, and with me is...
I'm Scott.
Yes.
And I'm Scott. We know how to do intros now.
This is a podcast where we take some deep dives into some wonderful artists and kind of look at their account in a different way, which is always a little bit positive, a little awesome, and you guys can enjoy their accounts with us.
And now that we've gotten more professional, I try not to say any dumb stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I try to at least always end on a good note.
I haven't had a red stripe in like 15 years, but we have a group now. So we're starting this with something completely random. This was recommended. Who recommended this? Raisha? I think so.
Nate, you'll be in there pretty soon. It's a Discord group for people.
But yeah, so basically here's the red stripe. I think it was at Trini Photography.
Okay, so
Photography. Trini Photography. So yeah, so I'm drinking this.
One of my favorite beer taglines ever. Do you remember? Hooray for beer. Doesn't get much simpler. More
absolutely.
Perfect.
But Nate, thank you for being on here.
Oh, you guys.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, I've been such a fan for the past, 2.5 seasons. And
that is great.
It's a super thrill to be on with you guys. Yeah. Big time.
I'm so happy that you're a fan. I am so happy that you actually like listening to us, which means it'll be a lot easier to talk to us than probably some people. So that's a victory. You are a absolutely fantastic photographer.
Thank you so much.
Obviously, like just absolutely skilled. And I mentioned it in your little write-up. Yeah, obviously real understanding, whether it's like, training or whatnot, like you have a real understanding of the technical aspects of it and whatnot. But one of the things that I started grabbing the more I was looking through your feed, and I talked about this, was the concepts, the metaphorical aspects, as I joked, the proverbs and whatnot. And I don't know if that comes from your interest in old tales and fantasy and mythic legions and whatnot, but after like I think I told before we got on here, after like the 6th time going through your feed, I started to see more of the classic legends and lore and lessons showing up in your images, which was really cool because the first few times I go through, I'm like, oh, these are good photos. These are good photos. Okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this. And then it was like, whoa, whoa, stop. No, incorrect. These are great photos, but they are based in lessons for all of us. So I really dug more into that aspect of it, which was really fun. Because I don't think I've really done that yet. I don't think we've really had somebody on there that made me kind of think in that direction. So it was awesome.
Well, I greatly appreciate that insight. And to be honest, I can't say that I consciously have thought to impart proverbs or lessons. I guess I think of it more of maybe storytelling.
Good.
Yeah.
And perhaps it comes out that way. Mm-hmm. And it's just in my brain from nearly 53 years of being on this planet and reading and taking, stories and movies and proverbs and stuff. So I suppose it seeps out through the stories and the, toy pictures. So
yeah. Well, that was I was hoping you might even say that, because I think that there's something really cool and we get people on here who do things subconsciously and make choices subconsciously. And I think it's a better reflection on your personal life experience and your creative process when it just kind of happens by accident. It means it's not forced. It's just the direction that your head goes in, and this is the end result. And, but really, really wonderful. I'm really looking forward to kind of digging through some of your stuff and whatnot. So
thank you.
This is great.
Awesome.
No, I'm just excited to have you on here because, like, as far as like the Mythic Legions kind of community, Trevor's huge and whatever, but you were really like hardcore in there, like enjoying all the figures from start to finish. So it's been really nice seeing more of you recently too. And that might be a pandemic thing, I don't know. But I'm really excited to hear more on your photography style and just like your figure choices and stuff too.
Cool. Thanks. Awesome. Yeah. Ready to dive in.
Yeah. All right. Let me get this up. Scott's like waiting.
Ta-da!
Oh my God. Oh, that's
all
funny.
right. Obviously, the first question, which isn't always the first question, but because of the juxtaposition here, it's got to be the first question. Is this your first actual toy photo, or is this just one of the first ones that you posted to Instagram?
Both, I guess, is the right answer. It is. I think it is the first picture I posted to Instagram, but I had no clue what toy photography was at the time. The only reason I was on Instagram because my 2 teenage daughters were on it, and I'm like, well, what is Instagram?
Yeah,
I figured I better get on to do a little, parental monitoring
and research. Absolutely,
right? Keep an eye on them and see what they're getting into.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured if I'm going to be on, I might as well have an account.
Yeah,
and much like a ton of people in this community, this was right around when Force Awakens came back out. I found myself at Target walking through the toy aisle, and I, saw this BB-8. Yeah, and I thought, my whole account is just going to be BB-8 peeking from around different things. And so I thought, geez, how clever will that be? And even more clever, BB-8 is peeking from behind a V8. So, big whoop. But, so anyways, that's where I thought this was going to head. And then once I was on here and started learning more about Instagram and what hashtags were and all that stuff, then I did discover that there was this thing called toy photography. And, my God, I jumped in like 2 feet and full speed ahead.
So you kind of started this before you really realized that there was a toy photography community. You were kind of just doing it 100%.
For fun. I had no toys. I was completely out of collecting. I didn't hardly have anything left. So it was just, like I said, an excuse to keep an eye on my kids.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you start finding all this other stuff that's going on.
Yeah. Big time.
Do you have photography experience prior to this? Were you a photographer at all, or just more for fun?
No, I mean, just, as a maybe early teen, I kind of dabbled. I liked it, but just the, sunsets and nature and some real simple still lifes back then. I've always loved photography, but I don't have an art background at all. I'm in a creative field, but I'm on the writing side of things. Yeah. But I've always been envious of the art directors I've worked with and the photographers and the cinematographers and the the illustrators and so I guess I've found a medium where I've had all these images in my brain and I can't, like I said, I can't draw or illustrate. So I think I've found a way to kind of put them in a medium that I can try and share with and learn.
I can relate to that. I understand that feeling because I can't draw. I cannot illustrate. I do not have any skill with pens or ink.
Zero. Awful.
Absolutely impossible.
Stick figures are awful.
Yeah, it is impossible.
Stick figures, says my 6-year-old. So there you go.
I'm embarrassingly terrible with like any sort of thing related to anything other than photography.
Yeah.
It's funny because my wife is very like that. That is her skill set, is all of that. I mean, she can draw, paint, digital art, graphic design, all that stuff. I cannot. That is just not me at all. And so, yeah, photography has been my outlet because it's my way of creating the thoughts in my head that I can't create with a pen and paper. So,
yeah, right.
I also love. So you have an interest in World War II aviation.
World War II in general, yeah. Big time. I spent like a good 15 years, like super deep into it. And that's, that was kind of my main hobby from like 2000 to 2015 ish.
Sure.
And I went to Normandy a handful of times, was involved in some documentaries and befriended a ton of vets and got involved in this thing called Honor Flight Michigan. We flew a ton of Michigan vets to their memorial in DC. And then I've since was one of the founding people who started a big memorial that's getting built here. They just broke ground on it a couple of weeks ago.
Amazing.
So I was big into that. And so that actually, through that, I did it almost happened like at the same time. I found, well, back when I was a kid, like the GI Joes were the 12-inch GI Joes, you know, not the snake eyes and all that kind of stuff. So, anyways, when I first got into the creative side of advertising, I got connected with a partner who's an art director, just blind, and we ended up being best friends and partners for 25 plus years. But anyways, when we first started working together, he's like, "Hey, you want to go to lunch? Sure. Do you mind if we swing into Toys R Us?" And I'm like, "Okay." You know, I'm like, you got to buy stuff for your nephew or something. But anyway, so we're in the toy aisle and he's like buying stuff. I'm like, wait, you know, I was like maybe, I don't know, 24, 25. I'm like, adults buy toys? You know? It's like, yeah. So I started looking and try and make a long story short. I got big time into collecting then, like all kinds of stuff. Like, you know, the McFarlane Spawn stuff was big.
Yeah.
And then I'll promise I'll circle this back to World War II. So then
I don't care where this goes. Are you kidding me?
These GI Joes, they started come back out with bigger ones. And I'm like, oh, you know, that nostalgic piece grabbed me. Mm-hmm. And then these different companies started coming out with more and more detailed World War II figures. So I ended up selling all my Spawn stuff. I had a ton of Simpson stuff, bunch of crap. And I just went hardcore into World War II 12-inch stuff. So it kind of like, to me, I sort of likened it to, you know, my wife would like rip on me for collecting this stuff. But I'm like, to me, it offered me the chance to feel like I was holding history a little bit in my hand and I could study it and learn things more. And I had a big setup in my basement. And I made like a big 1/6 Normandy farmhouse. I had like a 6-foot long wooden bridge. I had this huge like setup. And it's funny because there's a group of people in Michigan here. We got together. We all collected the same stuff. We're both into this, you know, history and collecting these figures. And once in a while we'd get together and go out on this guy's farm, spend the night, have a few adult beverages, and we'd do setups and take pictures of the stuff. And we'd put them on, you know, like forums and websites and stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess I was sort of doing toy photography back then, but again, I don't think it was a thing.
No, it was different.
You know?
And you were
probably totally
you were going at it from a different perspective as well. Like I feel like it wasn't, because Instagram wasn't a thing at that point. And, you know, it was a different,
the way you'd share it and totally. So
I would compare it almost to the way that like maybe like train collectors and like people who set up like train sets photograph and video their train setups and whatnot. And
good analogy,
I feel like it would be similar to more of that. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So I ended up selling off again most of those things. And then I kept kind of a couple, but I've always loved aviation. My mom's cousin was a famous P-51 ace from World War II. I got a chance to meet. So I've got a few things I kept, and this bomber in this picture is one of them. But
so is it a model?
Pardon me?
Is it a model?
It's just a die cast, kind of it's not really something you put together. It was just kind of bought like that.
I love that you put it with the Razor Crest. It's so
it just seems so
good.
Know, apropos, because you know, obviously it's no secret, you know, George Lucas got a lot of influence right from World War II and the aviation and stuff, but they just look so similar with just the aesthetic and the aluminum. And, you know, there's a thing called aluminum overcast during World War II, and there'd be so many B-17 bombers flying, you know, through the sky. That's where that term came from. So one day I just was laying in my room watching TV and I saw that bomber, and I just recently got that Razor Crest in, and just, you know, sometimes an idea just pops in your head. So had to go for it.
I love that you also did kind of like the World War II cast to it, like the photograph wise, that kind of sepia look and that true like kind of aged, because like the idea of like aging a photo, or like, you know, or a photo naturally aging, that's something that people sometimes don't realize too, is a lot of sepia photos. Like now we can do sepia like digitally and whatnot, but there were two main ways that sepia happens, and one was by like actually tea staining the paper. And then the other is just age, because the silver did not age as well as it, like, you know, inkjet prints do now. Like you do an inkjet print, it stays black and white for as long as, you know, you need to. But, you know, some of these old photographs just sat in the sun and started to yellow basically. And so I like that you actually went with that kind of vibe there. It's pretty cool.
Thank you.
So
thanks. Yeah. I played around with a lot, and it's fun. I like to bounce a lot of my stuff off my kids and see which ones they sort of gravitate to. And I also like to sort of mix up my feed as much as I can, you know, so
that just because you said it, we're diving into that part. Segue into your feed being varied. So that was one of my stopping points when I started coming up with how I wanted to do your photographs.
So now that is a conscious decision.
Yeah. So true story was originally my plan was to take one character like I traditionally do in sets of 3 because I'm a weird obsessive person, and was to hit those points with one character across the board. And I went through your feed again after I had made this decision in my head to do this, and I went, that's a terrible decision. That completely takes away the one of I think, in my opinion, a key feature of your feed is each photograph and each frame is, even though you may have like thematic ideas that come every once in a while and show up, like we'll talk about more, but like as a whole, each photo is its own little mini story. You don't have these long like stretches. Like it would have been really weird if I had taken like Cad Bane and put him through all 3 feelings that I felt when I saw your photographs. It would have been weird. It wouldn't have made any sense, because when you look at your feed, it goes, image of this, goblin doing this, attacking this castle. And then the next thing could be
Star Wars.
And then the next thing could be a troll fighting, a droid or something. Like it changes every single time. And it is so cool, and it keeps your page exciting. It keeps your page moving. And I think that's a pretty cool thing, because, I go back and forth with the way that feeds look. Some people really, really work well in that curated, like system where it's very like, okay, here's next thing makes sense. Yep. And then some people's feeds just, blow my mind with how from one day to the next, the images can be completely different color cast, different tones, different figures, different characters. So I really love that. I love how you do that in your feed.
Well, thanks. And I guess looking back on it a little bit, it might have also come from the fact that I used to not have a dedicated place to shoot. And I really didn't have a place to display stuff. So I had everything basically in bins. And so if I ever had an opportunity to shoot, and an idea popped in my head, to take stuff out, and I'd set up on my bar, and we have a small finished basement. But anyways, my wife, she's like, shoot it and get it down. So she's like, I don't want to see that stuff up. So it was always kind of rushed. And so I think that might have something to do with it. Now I do have a space, and say if I have a semi-elaborate setup, I do think to myself, God, this is up. I should take more pictures in it while it's up. But I don't find myself doing that. It makes more sense, like logistically, to do that. But I end up just tearing it all down. And I could take pictures then and just wait to post them, down the road. Would make a lot of sense, but I don't do that. So maybe that's where it's done. But I do like to mix it up. But like you said, I know a lot of people who will do triple stories, like 3 in a row, and they look great, or just, their style is their style, and it looks fantastic. But yeah, I do like to mix it up.
It's funny
for me. It just keeps it interesting for me, really.
You say the thing about, and this is more of just like a photography thing that makes me laugh a little bit. One of the things you talk about, you were just saying, is like you set up the thing. You're like, I probably should utilize this more, but then you just let it go. Historically, that's a really funny, like, so Edward Weston, if anybody listening cares, Edward Weston is one of my favorite old school classical photographers. He's one of the first people that I got into when I started really looking into what like darkroom photography was and stuff like that. And something that's really funny about him, it just, not that you're this extreme, but it reminds me, he would have these like negative, because they shot on negatives. So he would look at his negatives after a while, after he'd made a few prints of it, and he would just be like, nah, I'm going to just set all this on fire. And so he would just like burn his negatives and just like get rid of them just to make space and start over again, because he didn't care.
Yeah.
Compared to somebody like a traditional photographer that you look at, like who, would save their negatives for till the end of time And it was like, oh, well, I'll always have the opportunity to print this again. He was just like, nah, I did it. I'm done.
Wow.
Next. Trash.
Yeah. It's like a good friend who would paint, and he would spend all night painting a canvas.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day I'd go there. I'm like, well, dude, where's your painting? That was looking awesome last night. He goes, I painted over it. I'm like, what? You're kidding. I couldn't ever understand, but similar, I guess, thinking that.
It is. I think some artists feel like that. I mean, I can relate to it on a smaller level. I'm not quite that extreme, but like, I kind of am with you with the whole, like, I take the photos. I usually post those photos within a week, and I don't revisit those files or anything like that. Once those photos are done, they're out in the world. And then I don't really like you were saying, like, I don't stock up on photos. Some people are really good at that. Some of the people who really understand Instagram and like really understand how it works and are like, like techie people. Yeah. I'm not. I don't care. Like, I don't look at when I post. I'm not good at that kind of stuff.
I used to think there's something to that. And like, I tried to post on like, somehow I figured like it was like a Tuesday and a Friday was my thing for a while.
Yeah.
And it seemed to, be working, but then it didn't seem to be working. I'm like, God, I have the slowest growing feed ever. So I'm like, well, screw that. I'm just going to like
do whatever
I felt like I had to rush it, and it ended up not being as much fun as I was having. So I'm like, forget that. I'm going to do it when I'm ready to do it. And if I don't like the picture, I'm not going to put it up. And if it's not ready, and fine.
Exactly. That is, I think you have a really good attitude when it comes to that. I think Steph and I have talked about this a bit too, is the minute that this isn't fun anymore,
exactly.
I'm not going to do it. Like if I'm not enjoying it, I'm not going to put time into this, because my intention here is not to make a feed that has 100,000 followers. If that happens, whatever, I don't care. But I don't want it to. I'm not going to let it get to that point. And so I think that is a really good. You go in, you post what you want, and see how people like it. Have some fun, interact with your like friends, and and enjoy it, and enjoy that time, and then move on to the next set of photos. Like I think that's a really good way to do it.
Yeah. So. I mean, of course I love put stuff out there, and it's exciting to see how people react and
of course
and stuff like that. But I've never done like the liking sessions or, stuff like that. So it's just been my, like I said, I work in a creative field, but I have a boss and I have clients, and there's boxes and budgets and restrictions. And so this has just been my outlet to tell my stories however the hell I want,
Exactly. Nobody tells you what to do.
Yeah. So it's on my timeline. It's on how I want to do it and when I want to do it and what I want it to look like. And that's an old one.
This is so cool.
Thank you.
I love the mashup of your interests. I think that is just so enjoyable. Like, it is, you've got this old military motorcycle and Star Wars characters riding it. I don't do a ton of it. I've really only ever done it for these types of things. People who are really big into mashups. I'll tend to do it at like a mashup style, but for my own personal work, I don't tend to do mashups. And I love people who are really freaking good at them. And this is great. I adore this photo.
Thanks. Yeah. Like I said, this was a super early one, but it's one I do occasionally will look back on, and I'm still pretty pleased with that. Right down to the little Falcon tag, I guess. There,
so good.
Chewie's hair blowing, and this was back, before I had, when I did shoot outside. This was just on my deck and the woods in the back, and
Do you predominantly shoot inside now?
Yeah.
I thought so. I think most of your feed is indoors. So I just wasn't sure if you do you prefer it, or is it just out of convenience?
I prefer it. Yeah, I just again, that I don't have to rush. I can take my time. There's been times where I'll shoot 100 pictures and then I'll load them up and I'll look through them, and I'm like, I'll find the smallest thing that bugs me, and I'm like, oh, I can just go try again tomorrow or later on today or whatever. And it's still, the lighting's going to be exactly the same and everything else. So I think that's what's great about it. Just the control.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I get it.
To really learn a lot as far as lighting and just experiment more than anything. and really, observe other photographers, and thank God so many are, much better than I am about putting up their BTS, stuff.
You're talking to two people who are not good.
I'm awful. So bad.
We don't post anything. And I feel bad, because I know that there have been times where people have reached out to me to ask how I what was my approach with, how I created that. Or, what I get asked, I've been asked a few times recently is my editing. And I feel bad. I don't keep track of that. I don't I just sort of do it, and then that's that. And by the time I'm done with the photo, I'm like, oh yeah, I probably should have documented that a little bit. And I say it every time.
I wouldn't even know how. I mean, just, when you sit and you watch like Tom Iwatu's stuff, I'm like mesmerized. I just could just watch that over and over. I have no freaking idea what he's doing, but it is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So I just use super simple apps and the most basic of basic things on Photoshop.
Yeah.
This stuff is amazing because it's all in his brain. Like he's creating things like straight off of like what it's just insane.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Yeah.
It's funny you say the thing about indoor photography. So I'm gonna come out right now and admit my photos look like they were done indoors, but they weren't. I actually did them outside because I wanted to be outside because it was really nice the past few days.
Yeah, it's been so nice.
And Steph and I talk about this a lot. We are predominantly outdoor photographers, and that's honest. That's the reason. But then what I started thinking, and this might be the first time I've done this, where, I wanted to give an indoor look because you do tend to shoot indoors. But I said to myself, I'm like, well, if I just wait until it's pitch black outside and then bring lights out with me, I could just create it like it was indoors and pretend. So I just used like my our patio dining room table thing. Perfect. And I just sat out there and I just started making sets, and it's great because my neighbor, oh my God, he looks at me and for those of you who have not seen the Cad Bane photo, we will talk about it. But while I was setting it up, he genuinely he goes, "Are you doing voodoo over there?"
Yes, I am.
And I was like, 100%. He's like, "Wait, really?" I'm like, "No, I'm not doing voodoo over here." And he was just like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm taking photos." And I realized that I've never really shot in the backyard. I've just never done it. I always go somewhere else. I always try to go to like the woods or a park or something like that. And he was like, "Cool, man." Like, I have to show him. I'll explain to him at some point what exactly I was doing, but it was so great. "Are you doing voodoo over there?" I'm like, "No, I'm not doing voodoo." Like, this is,
it took me a long time to sort of reveal to my neighbors my little secret little room back here. And when I do my Instagram page, we were at a quick kind of a impromptu party one night, and I had a sort of I forget what t-shirt I had on, but I could see him looking at it like all throughout the night. And then finally someone worked up the nerves. "What are you wearing? What is that symbol thing or whatever?" So, I'd had a few pops in me, I think, and I came clean, but everyone thought I was cool. Yeah. But I've shot a little bit in the backyard. So
yeah, it's cool. Funny. We've talked about this with other people. And the idea of like joking about it being like, coming clean or like coming out of the closet with what you do and whatnot. But it is funny, like how we all have this tendency at first, and I'm completely past it at this point, but like, early on, it is a little weird. Like I didn't want people to know. And then by the time like people at work started finding out, I guess I kind of just let it go at that point. I was just like, well, everybody knows now.
It depends, like sort of know your audience, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Plenty of people that I've no problem. I'm happy to share, but some people I just know they're just not going to get it.
They're going to be like, "What is wrong with you?" Yeah.
Yeah.
That or they'd have no idea where you're going to start to ask questions.
Yeah. Right.
Stare at you for a little bit. Yeah. My boss is that way. She's just kind of like, "Oh, photography." She'll like shake her head. I'm like, "Cool. Let's go."
I understand that. Cameras, lenses.
Yeah. Cameras. That's what I do.
Right.
Speaking of, again, segue. What do you shoot with mostly?
It's a Canon T7i.
Okay.
Oh, we're the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, when I got mine, you had just recently got yours. I remember I was asking you questions about it. Yeah, that's right.
First one, this is one of the ones I requested to put on there because it was something that I kind of based my Vader photo off of, and a few other photos. I like your confident approaches. You have these photos that show up, every few, because again, you don't do the same thing over and over again, but they constantly show up in your feed where it's a character who's like just in like a power walk, like coming at you,
kicking the door down.
Kicking the door down, ready to crush things. And I really, really love that idea. And I love that, again, if you want to look at it metaphorically, like the idea of, as a person, like we all need a little of that sometimes. We need a little bit of that. Like, I'm going to walk into this room with my weapon and I'm going to crush it. I'm going to
swagger on your stuff.
This is my time to just wreck some stuff.
Or at least fake it till you make it.
Exactly. And I love that. I love you have these photos periodically where it really focuses on the full body of the character from foot to head. They're centered in there. You always use such very cool lighting, varied. Like you go all over the place with your lighting, and I love that. I love that you use different colors. You use mixing colors. You use really dark areas and really bright areas, and you change the tone. Sometimes it's softer, sometimes it's harder. Like it's really neat. And
Thanks.
But like I love these series. Like once in a while when one of these photos comes up where it's just like, this dude's coming in and he's just like, let's do this. He's got like a sword in each hand. And I just love the idea of being on the receiving end of this guy. Like, oh God, what am I doing?
I appreciate you saying that. And I keep telling myself what I really want to step more into. I've been saying this for probably a year now, and I don't think I've really gotten there at all yet, is trying to put the action into action figures. I just really haven't done a ton of that.
I don't either.
Fighting, really kicking, jumping, stabbing, whatever kind of stuff. It's but maybe
it doesn't speak to you.
Maybe
See,
I don't know. It seems like it's hard. I think I don't know.
True, but I mean, you do this kind of stuff. Like it looks very natural. Like your posing is very natural. Like I don't feel like it would be that big a stretch to start throwing a few wires in there and just kind of like, get a little more aggressive. But I don't know.
I'll keep working on that. But yeah, as far as the lighting and the colors and stuff, it's again, like I said, it's just been experimenting and just learning like crazy and trying to emulate the people that really inspire me. So yeah, thanks.
Have you ever seen like Cole the Conqueror, like the old like 90s versions of like fantasy film? Like they have a lot of like this lighting and stuff, and that's what it reminds me of. I always hear the soundtrack to that movie when I look at your post for this.
I'll have to look that up. No, I'm not familiar.
It's Kevin Sorbo, so it's like his like version of basically, but it's
right on. Yeah.
Really good.
Yep, I know.
Yeah. So
cool.
all
Thanks,
of
this is to get Steph a little bit excited too. Dios and stuff.
Yeah.
What's your Dio situation?
This particular one, I was in a a contest for it, like, I don't know, maybe 2-3 years ago, and I won. I couldn't believe it. I never win anything. So this is my first Dio that I got, and I've like used the heck out of it. And I've been so grateful that I had it, because before I didn't have anything, and I was real struggling with backgrounds. I didn't know what to do. So yeah, that's been huge. And then I've kind of tried a few of my own, branching out with that a little bit. I've recently just got 2 new extreme sets in that I really like, and I'm excited to start using those some more. Cool. But I've got shelves of props that I've gathered. I've made trees, just the standard kind of stuff that everyone makes. I'm not good at thinking of this shit myself. I'm great at copying, like Jason B. Michael, his like his grass mat, stuff like that. So
that was funny. When he was on here, I could not find a grass mat. I don't know if you heard that part, but I ended up just like buying felt from like a a craft store. Yeah. And I'm no joke, I sat it in the lawn and I just let my son climb all over it and get it like dirty. And then I just started spraying like acrylic paint on it to try to make it look grosser. Yeah. I don't know if it actually helped, but like I really do want to get one of those grass mats. I think that's such a cool thing.
And is this one just a door, or is it like the whole setup? Do you know?
there's it's like 3 walls and a floor, and so I think I had spun this around, like that door might be one of the side kind of things, or it goes in the back of really the steps kind of walk up to this door. But it's got magnets on it, so it's been really versatile, but yeah, it sort of makes sort of like a horseshoe kind of shaped if it's put all together. But yeah, like I said, it's when I won that thing, I just went crazy with it because it's all I had, and I just loved having it. My disposable. And then I started doing the Digirama. I've been playing around with that every once in a while.
Yeah,
and experimenting with that and trying to use the right filters and stuff to make that work. And
that's an interesting one. Did
like match the lighting and the lensing and the not getting the reflections on the glass, and it's a lot of work. So I don't use that a lot, but sometimes it's worked out.
No, it is. That is a weird. I did it one time for capes and rifles, and that was it. That's the only time I've ever done it, and it didn't connect with me. I'm not saying I won't try it again. I want to try it again, but I know what you mean. It's like trying to make everything blend the way you want it to. It's just
like I said, I don't have that. I feel like that art eye or that art background is to perfectly match stuff up. So a lot of the stuff I feel like I can work at a lot, but I like doing that. I like trying to figure it out.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
I got to point out too. I love your lighting. Obviously, we've talked about that. How it's very dramatic. It's very fantasy. It's very cool. I love that you lit the sword and the side of his helmet there. Like it's just so nice on that one side, and you just see the edge of the one sword on his left arm. It's like, again, talking about that power entrance. It's just like I just picture it like, again, blown through the door, and like it just catches the light of like somebody's fire who's in there just like chilling out, and they're just like, oh no, and he's just like, what's up? Like I like this so much.
Thank you. Really, these Mythic Legions, they take light and they just shoot so beautifully. I mean, they do a lot of the work for me.
So cool. Awesome. This is interesting.
This is a Digirama one. So this is a little the X-Wing miniature slave one there with computer screen in the background.
That is awesome. That is absolutely awesome. Like that's exactly how you use that. I love how simple it is. You didn't overcomplicate anything.
Yeah.
It feels authentic, and it's like it's really neat. And I love that you tilted Cloud City too. Like I love that idea. Giving it like bringing more of the attention to Slave One and stepping away from the place that the ship is leaving from. Like it almost like that the place is secondary and the focus should be the ship. I love this. I really, really, really love this. And I love the way that you created the light on the ship as well as the backlit sun. Like it's just the blend is stellar. It's absolutely stellar. Like
thank you.
It looks so good.
Yeah, this was one of the rare ones where you said sort of a simple setup that just comes together and seems to work. I wish I had more of those occurrences, but every once in a while.
That's all you need. Every once in a while, you just need that moment.
It's like getting that perfect, golf shot in or something. The rest of your 18 holes sucks, but that one shot.
You got one that you get to talk
coming
about.
Back.
Do you like the ships a lot for Star Wars? I'm noticing like a lot of it on your feed because of the aviation.
I do. I mean, that was always as a kid such a huge thing. I just super drawn into them, and I love them.
That's I get that. Do you go to air shows and stuff like that?
I used to every single year. Michigan, I had a huge one, a great one.
Yeah, I've been really wanting to take Elliot, so I was.
Oh God, I went. I just lived for him.
Yeah.
Very
That's
cool.
So cool.
My dad was in the Air Force, so we used to have model planes hanging from the ceiling.
There you go.
That was like his thing.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see him every now and again. When I saw your feed this morning, I was like, oh, I was wondering if it was a model or not because
nice.
Ever.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I picked some outdoor ones because I saw them.
Of course you picked an outdoor one.
Yeah, this is an old one. I don't even have this figure anymore, but
this
is on Lake Michigan.
Oh my gosh. Was this one of those like kind of impulsive, like you're on a trip and you had a toy with you, or was this more of you went to the destination to get
planned? My mom has a condo on the west side of the state on Lake Michigan, so I purposely had packed some, sort of appropriate figures that would work on a beach, and I got up super early. I think on a Sunday morning on purpose when I wouldn't think there'd be anyone down there.
Yeah,
would, catch me doing this.
Yeah. Oh, I don't.
Yeah.
It's funny though. I mean, even with more like classical photography and stuff like that, I was the lunatic. So I would go on these like family vacations, like beach trips with my wife's family, and I'm not a beach person. I'll be honest, and I'm not really like. Not a swimming person, I don't really care. It's just never been my thing. I like being outside, but the beach has never done anything for me. So I had this tendency to I'd bring a few cameras with me and I would get up on vacation at 4:00 in the morning.
Dang.
And I would go down and find locations to photograph, and I would go photograph all morning. And I would get back around the time everybody was getting up because it's vacation. So I would show up and I'd be back, and I'd already been up for 4 hours. But it was I love it, but it created a fondness for early morning beach.
So even if you're up doing what you love, you're on vacation.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. This is great. I love again, you talk about wanting to do more action and stuff, but I love action. I love the people who do the crazy action. I love the people who blow things up and all that stuff. I talk about it. It's very, very cool. And I want to do more of it, but I will always be a sucker for a photograph of a character just being a character. Moments that feel like a still from a movie. It'll always attract my attention. Yes, I love seeing, stormtroopers with wires and everybody flying everywhere and somebody coming through just firing away. It's very cool. But your traditional posing and these characters doing something you can kind of feel where is he going? What's he looking at? What's the direction? What's happening right now? Is he on a patrol, or is he in the middle of, is he about to enter something that's a mess? It's I don't know. It makes you think about the character a little bit. And sometimes action shots take away a little bit of that mystery because what's happening. It's hard to imagine beyond the explosion and the people shooting everywhere. It's oh, well, this is happening. We know what's going on right now. But again, with some of your I compared it to proverbs and metaphor and stuff like that, is it allows people to think a little bit about the image and what is happening and what's going to happen and what happened before this. There's a little bit more space for the viewer to create, because that's the thing with art in general. And a lot of friends of mine, when I worked in galleries and stuff like that, we always talked about the idea of the 50-50 split between the artist and the viewer. And 50% of it is your creation, but there's another 50% of that piece that's dependent on the viewer's interpretation of that piece. Unless you're going to stand there with each person and tell them exactly what you want them to believe at every single image, you can't do that. So you have to be able to let go of a little bit of control of your creation. And I think when you have situations like this and poses like this and minimalism like this, it allows for a little bit more creativity on the back end for the person who's admiring it. So
cool. I think that's a great way to think about it and to put it. I do like to, I guess some are a little more prescriptive and maybe where my head was at, but a lot of them, I do like to sort of leave it open to interpretation and exactly what you said. Just what do you think's going on here?
Yeah.
Tell your story.
I love it. I love the early light too. It's beautiful. Absolutely stunning.
Thanks.
When you edit, Nate, are you more on the red warm spectrum? I'm noticing that because that's the scary area for me. So
I have found that, and it's again hasn't been a purposeful thing, but I have noticed myself doing that a little more than not, I guess. But yeah, I try to. That's another thing. I do try to mix it up. Then knowing that I do tend to lean that way. So whether it's in the same photo, I'll try and maybe put some warms and colds in, or just overall like, nope, let's just make this one more blue.
What is your basic editing? Like, what is your process from, like, you get the image into the computer? Where do you usually start?
I just load them in and then just go through and once in a while I might have to layer a couple of things. Like for instance, the B-17 Razor Crest shot. I had an air can and I was blowing the propellers, each one separately, so I had to kind of go in and do all those individually.
That's super freaking cool.
But my editing is like, I'm just super, super basic. I just use like Snapseed, or once in a while I'll use
Snapseed's amazing.
It is. Or what I've been finding a lot lately is just the iPhone's edit tools. Yeah. I've been using that quite a bit. And then I'll use stuff like Lens Light, that kind of suite of I guess apps that can add in bokeh or a sun flare or something like that. Just real basic, simple stuff. And then like I said, if Photoshop, if I do have to edit out a wire or a stand or something like that, or if I do have a light in the background like that Slave One shot, I did have a little Lume Cube up there. Yeah, just edit stuff like that out. So real basic stuff.
That's kind of, it makes a lot of sense. That's typically what I'll use Photoshop for too, is that kind of stuff, like a lightsaber, blaster effect, something that just cannot be done in like Lightroom. Layering, if removing wires, removing stuff from the background, things like that. And again, I don't typically do a ton of that, but if I need to, that's what I'll use that for. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and after, like I said, being partners with an art director for 25 plus years, I've picked up a tiny bit of Photoshop along the way. And it's just enough to get by. So
absolutely.
I actually picked up how to layer from one of Tom's videos. That's why I was like,
did you? Yeah, I really got to sit down and go to YouTube University a little bit more and learn some more tricks of the trade, I think.
This is great. This is great. This is, again, the mashup idea. And what I think is fascinating about this mashup, I'm sorry, both of you. Is that a Mythic Legion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Before I start saying it and everybody starts yelling at me. This mashup is phenomenal because I compare it. Steph, help me out. Who was the person who we talked about mashups where the characters don't matter? It's not like a character riding a Tauntaun from Star Wars. It's a character just riding a creature.
Oh, it's S-Jink Labs.
Thank you. Yes, because there's two styles of mashups. There's the style of mashup where it really matters who the two characters are, or the three characters are, or the four characters are, whatever the case is. There's those moments where it's really important. Like it's funny. Like when we did like the Mitchell Wu stuff, like the idea of two characters meeting who wouldn't typically meet, it makes it funny. There's humor in it. There is no humor here because it just works together. It's like if you just separate yourself a little bit from your preconceived notions of nerd culture and like what you're interested in and whatnot. This does not have to be anything. This can just be two characters like put together, and this creature could easily exist in this character's world. And I think that that's something that's really neat that you do periodically when you do to create a mashup. Is this? It doesn't matter that it's a Tauntaun, if it's a Star Wars thing. And I'm just saying that as a Star Wars person, I happen to know. But anybody could look at this. If somebody, like, let's just say somebody who never saw Star Wars saw this, they could just look at this as like a really cool image of a character riding a beast. Yeah. The end. And I think that that's really neat.
Oh, thanks. Because I'm sure there's plenty of Star Wars nerds out there like, what the hell is this?
Who would do this? This isn't canon. Who is this knight on this
on this tauntaun. They don't exist in Empire Strikes Back. Yeah. I know, trust me. Star Wars people drive me crazy. I'm a Star Wars person. They all drive me crazy.
Same. But I mean, I enjoy doing both. Like you said, this could be anything, anywhere.
Yeah.
But I do love mixing up characters where it does have a little bit more of a humor bent to it.
Was this inside? This was not inside. Was it?
No, this was an outdoor.
Thank God. Because I was about to say, if this was inside, I was gonna quit photography and just, I was like, no, that's it. I have nothing left to offer, because that would have blown my brain open, because it really is, it's stunning. I also love, like, I don't know, just your framing is so classic and elegant. Like you're really good at just like honing in on the character and the scene you're trying to portray. You don't leave a lot of junk around the edges. It's very like, this is such a clear portrait and just drives you right in there. You don't leave dead space on the edges, which I like dead space. I like negative space. I think it's very cool, but that's not something you do. And it's like the head is right to the top of the frame. The feet are right to the bottom of the frame. The tail comes out of the frame, and the one horn gets like, and what is that, a pinky width from the edge there. I love that. I love it.
Thank you.
It's like a Topps card. It's so cool. But yeah, just absolutely stunning.
Cool. Thanks.
Beautiful image.
You definitely could take like photos for like magic cards. Like
right? Yes.
Oh wow! Thanks, Steph.
Yes.
That's super
magic
cool. Thank
cards. You. Oh my God! Here we go. Confrontation.
Yeah.
So this is
pointed that out.
I had to be. So this comes up periodically again in your feed. Here's another example of something that I became like really like. I just kept honing in on, and this could be taken however you want. So for everybody listening, however you want to interpret this, whatever. But
paging Dr.
I love, yeah, exactly. I love these images that you do. There's this beautiful, especially, and I'm not trying to like make it sound more dramatic than it needs to be, but like in the nerd world, a lot of people in the nerd world have, we're not the coolest all the time. We've had, challenges in our lives, we'll say. And I just love these characters that you put in these situations where they have to go up against something significantly bigger than themselves, significantly more powerful than themselves, but they do it and they're willing to do it. And that, again, that comes, I think, a little bit from your love of fantasy and stuff. And I mean, to pull up like Lord of the Rings, I'll try not to get emotional here. But there are two moments in Lord of the Rings that my wife knows, like, get me every time I watch it, no matter what. I can't watch these movies without getting like emotional. And that's spoiler alert, get it together. Boromir's death, and when Aragorn says for Frodo and charges at knowing damn well they lucked out, everything worked out in the end, but he knew he wasn't coming back from that. He knew it. There was not a chance. Same thing with Boromir. He made that choice, and he knew he had made a mistake, and he was like, you know what? This is it. I'm gonna do the right thing and go out with a bang. And I just love that concept. I've always loved that concept in stories and legends and in fantasy and sci-fi, is these characters just making a choice and saying, you know what? If this is how I go, this is how I go.
Well, yeah, they're doing the right thing. And
exactly.
I sort of always like rooting for the underdog and the little guy. And that's a good point, I guess, like you said, about sort of us nerds, that maybe that's what we've been. So
we've always been
let's
a
go
goofy.
Let's go out and kick some ass and stand up for what we love and be who we are.
But cool. This is just I love it. I love the sword is out. It's like, you know what? Come on, bud. Come on. I'm ready. I'm ready for you. And that was why like I had to do just like a version of that in my own sense. Is like just the idea. I tried to pick like the character who I've always loved as far as like when it comes to loyalty and just like willing to take risks. And I was like, Rex is just going to come in there with 2 tiny little blasters going at a Rancor, and he's just going to be like, well, if this is how I go, this is how I go. And I think it's really beautiful. And I love when you do this.
Oh,
it's,
thanks, Scott.
Something I really enjoy. So there's my philosophical analysis of your
love it.
These images, but I love them. I love them. They get me every time I came across one as I was scrolling through your feed. I was like, there it is.
I like the juxtaposition a lot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like, this is your, this is the mashup for the Fantasy Dune character, right? For the little series that you did.
It is. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's been a different thing that they started this year with that Myth and Fantasy toy pick. What was every week it was a different theme. But this year they sort of set up sort of a monthly, like 3 week in a row kind of storytelling, almost like chapters. It's going to sort of unfold, and that's been fun, kind of a different challenge. Yeah. And again, was something that, oh my God, now I'm on a schedule and I got to get it done.
Oh.
And a lot of times I'd wait till, Sunday. I'm like, oh, I have all day. I can do it. And you know how it is. Like one thing or another pops up. Next thing you know, I'm like frantically getting something that I'm like, I don't like this. I'm not happy with it. And I'd write, the crew, and I'm like, sorry guys, I'm not posting tonight. I'd have to be okay with it,
Yeah. But again, that goes back to what we talked about at the beginning. Like if it becomes too
too much pressure.
We got to do this, too much pressure. Then you're taking away the whole point of why we do this.
Right.
And
God, I've been down in my basement setting up stuff, and thank God no one was home. Yeah. I mean, just nothing was going right. Stuff was falling over. I'm in the dark. I'm tripping over, tripods and I'm just freaking losing my cool big time.
Yeah.
Like
yelling at toys like a lunatic.
My lungs. Yeah. And I'm like, I step out and I'm like, what the hell is wrong with me? I'm playing with toys.
Yeah, I know.
I'm getting so damn angry about it. This is ridiculous. So step away, come back, have fun,
regroup. Right? Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
All right. We're going into the challenge photos now.
Cool. Oh my gosh.
Speaking of things that didn't work, I didn't realize that arms don't bend at the elbow because I had a completely different shot in mind for them.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Steph, what the hell is that thing?
That is awesome.
They're from Gothotropolis. They're Mythic Legions.
Yes.
So I have 3 of them. And I thought I had ones that were all the RBGs, the red, blue, and green. I was going to do it.
Oh, fun.
But there was 2 red ones, which threw me off. So
is he like stealing baked goods? Like what is happening?
There's my little goblin here who's like found them and they're trying to like put stuff on.
I love it, Steph. This is such a great shot. I love the focus on it and the composition, the light.
This is awesome.
Look at that devilish little smile.
So much trouble. I know. Yeah. I think that's what I love about this is so much mischief.
Big time.
Oh my God.
What a riot.
This is hilarious. Good job.
Excellent.
What is this another diorama you have? God,
no, I
cool stuff.
Up. So since I have the sewer dio, which Graham was nice enough to like all the walls come off so I can use them for the stone. And that's my bridge. So I just have the bottom of the bridge to make the whip.
Perfect.
Oh,
I love that bridge dio.
Yeah. And I have tons of random plastic cannons and random stuff because I was
fun. I want to come over and play.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's just like, oh man. Foam rock floor, but it's
God, you have such great stuff. I also I love his placement in it too. I love that he's not necessarily in the middle. He's kind of like off to the side, like, yeah, look what I'm doing. I got the croissants. Like it's just, I don't know. There's something really funny about him. What a cool little figure. I'm losing my mind over this thing too.
Awesome.
They're like little like time gremlins, I think.
Yeah.
Hourglasses for their hammers.
Yeah. I don't have any. I've always, kept my eye on them.
I love your lighting too.
Yeah. That backlight coming in there. Perfect.
It's very cool.
I wanted to get some shadows because I tell you they have the candles. I was assuming indoors would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well done, Steph.
Thank you. Ready, Scott?
Oh, my Cad Bane.
Yes.
So so everybody knows, Cad Bane showed up at my doorstep.
Your voodoo shot?
Did not know why. This is my voodoo shot. Yeah. Cad Bane shows up at my doorstep. And I'm like, what in the world? Why is Cad Bane at my house? Did not recognize the return address or anything like that. Turns out Steph made him show up at my house.
Nice.
He was a figure that I will tell you, wanted him, but I wasn't like, I was like, if I see him in the wild, I'll get him. And then like I started seeing people photograph. Yeah, I know. And I started seeing people photograph with him, and I was just like, oh crap, he's really cool. Like I didn't realize like his hat came off and like all this thing. I was like, and then I just kind of like let it go, and I was fine. And then this showed up. So awesome. I immediately pulled him out, and I was like, well, he's going to be part of this process. And
so cool.
And it was, I wanted to get that seated thing you do, which I'll talk about. I don't think we didn't talk about this yet. I don't think we talked about this yet. I love, so the idea of a seated character, again, I kind of wrote about this when I was doing your post, but like, it's kind of boring when you think about it. Like, you sit the character down on something, the end, photograph, but you don't make it boring. You're really good at giving the room energy with the seated character. And I was like, I need to do that. And that was something I really wanted to do. I wanted to have the confrontation of something bigger than the character. I wanted to have a seated character in like a position of power. And then I wanted to have like a blow through the door kind of a situation. And I was really excited because I did not know, when I knew I was going to do this, I did not know who I was going to use for this photo. And then Cad Bane showed up. I was like, well, there we go. This is the power move. So like, I had this like whole idea of him like finding his place on Tatooine and just becoming this dominant like being like in the shadows of just like, okay. And like the idea of like, again, we go to the exploration and discovery, the idea of just like discovering where you belong. And like, he's just been like living here, like, running stuff underground and all this crazy stuff. But it was really fun. And this was the voodoo shot that my neighbor thought I was doing. I love
the super low perspective. The lighting on his face is perfect. The pose is perfect. That you can still get a hint of the top of his hat.
The hat, yeah.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah,
it was fun.
Great work. Fun. Great job, Scott.
Really silly thing, but about like shooting outside. Well, Nate, I like shoot with junk all the time. Like I like garbage. I don't have dios. I just have garbage. That's what I do. So I took these tea lights and wrapping and put PVC plumbing caps on top of the tea lights.
Ah, no way. Perfect.
But the funniest thing, so the little like, I'm going to call it the moon just for fun.
Yeah.
There's where I placed him. It was the best angle I could get. So behind my house, you can see there's like a small, like there's like a little 2 blocks over. There's a like mini mart type thing, and they have like a sign and stuff out front, and I was like trying to make sure the sign didn't show up because it was like an open close sign. It was really ugly. And then like I could have just been smart and like turned in another direction. But then I was like, well, this one lamp kind of glows a little bit more like whitish. So let's kind of put that on the edge and then it'll be fine. Yeah. So that's just like a light from the mini mart parking lot.
That's awesome.
But this was really fun. Like I said, it was really fun to shoot outdoors, but trying to do an indoor vibe.
Cool.
It was fun to spend some time in the backyard and finding a way to still spend time outside, but utilizing artificial lighting and trying to really embrace it. And it was fun. It was a fun challenge. So thank you. Again, I love doing these. It is so much fun. It is honestly, sometimes I enjoy these challenges more than I like just photographing my own stuff at this point, because it really does make my brain work and tick a lot. And trying to kind of look at what people do and embrace their styles and the things that they think about when they're shooting and trying to figure it out. Because that's sometimes a challenge too.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I was hopefully going to remember to say this till the end, but so I don't forget, I'm going to say it now. Like, thank you guys for all that you do, because this is a lot of work that you put into this. Like, not only just doing the show on a Sunday, but yeah, I mean, both you guys, like to sit and do 3 pictures like this and to go through feeds and pull pictures and do all that research. And so thank you, both you guys. I mean, I know it's a ton of time and energy and passion, so it's greatly appreciated. So thanks.
Well, I think Steph and I just really enjoy getting to talk to people and getting to give people a platform. It really is fun. Like, it's really fun because it's not going back to the nerds, and we're never going to be the cool people necessarily, but we all kind of exist in this community, and we should all matter to each other. And we should embrace different people's styles and the way that they do things, people's creativity. And it's really fun. And it can be really fun when you start to look at other people's work. Like, I started on here, I always had like an open mind, but I started here mainly, I was following a lot of Star Wars photographers. I'll be honest. It's just who I was finding. I wasn't trying to do much. I just I'm a Star Wars fan. That's who I was following.
Yep.
And then I started finding people like Steph and, people like you and people who do things other than that. And, Barbie photography and Funko Pop photography and stuff that I have 3 Funko Pops just because they were impulse buys, or like Hot Wheels photography. Like, there's something really fun about getting to see everybody else's experience and sharing it with other people. And even if 20 people listen to this and get the chance to kind of see how somebody else does something, I think there's, somebody there is going to gain something from it. And
100%. Yeah.
It's
it's really a great way to get to know people beyond just their images. And because I don't have people that I live by that I hang out and that do this stuff with. So this is how I get to talk to friends and people in the community and make those connections and network and learn and get inspiration. So that's why I love. I'm so thrilled to be on, but I love watching what you do, and that's why I love that I've gotten the opportunity to do the Legion's Lounge with Trevor and Bill. I look so forward to doing that just so I can talk to those 2 guys, let alone if we have anybody else on the show. It's just, we can talk about what we love with people that are in the same,
absolutely.
They're both into it. They're all of us into it. So,
speaking of which, we get to go to this.
I love this. It looks like me. This is, that's like my dream life right there.
So I'm sure this line I know it's way before your guys' time, but like growing up, I had, I'd say 3 main lines I was into: Lego, space Legos. And then these are called Adventure People. They're from Fisher Price. This even preceded Star Wars, and then all the Star Wars stuff. So those 3 things are what I grew up on. My mom kept, God bless her, all this stuff. So I've had a bin of these toys sitting in my basement for years, and I've been wanting to bust them out. I forget, it's like Dan's Toys Art and some other guy like Scott. They always, I think it was maybe Sundays, they would do like bring out the retro toys kind of a thing. Hashtag was, but I always like, I'm going to bust out my Adventure People, and I never did. But I kept thinking about, what to do for the exploration and discovery. And then I thought, these are the toys that got me into exploring and discovering as a kid, playing and storytelling and stuff like that. And that's what they represent. They are Adventure People. They are explorers and discoverers themselves. So it just seems so apropos to finally do it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. I love this. I love this image. It is such a step outside of your traditional feed, but yet at the same time, you see everything that is you in it. It's a great photo. It really is a wonderful photo, and I absolutely love it. Is that the grass mat too?
I was just going to point that out. Yep.
Yeah. It looks absolutely wonderful. And it's such again, this is a reminder. We've talked to other people about this this is what we do. This is where it comes from. Yes, we're trying to make things look real, and we're trying to like bring out that action like you were talking about before, and like make these poses dynamic and stuff. But we all started creating stories with things like this and Legos and figures with half the amount of detail that they have now.
Right.
Yeah. You know,
its joints are so floppy and loose and paint scraped.
God, yes.
But God love them, you know.
And I think back on some of my first Star Wars figures. My first Star Wars figures were, 5 points of articulation. They're all like this.
Oh, everything.
That's all they do. And it's it really is great that you brought this out for this. It makes me really happy. So I love it.
Something just kind of struck me too, and I was thinking a fourth thing that I might have added that I played with a lot was blocks. Just wood blocks. But I'm thinking back, like I think that I spent more time doing setups, like using those blocks and creating the Star Wars Cantina and the Death Star and arranging things and creating scenes than I actually did playing.
Yeah.
That was my playing, I guess, in a way. I mean, I do remember like early mashups every once in a while. Star Wars figures would come down to Earth and interact with the adventure people. But
absolutely,
I think I did a ton of setups. So it's interesting now when I think about it a little bit more. That's kind of what I'm doing again with the photography, right? It's less the action stuff. It's more of a setup and just a scene, I guess. But,
I did a lot of the same stuff. I did a lot of the same stuff as a kid. I was into these big, elaborate setups, and I probably wasn't as deep into it as you, but I got into like smaller, like military figures and stuff like that too, a little bit when I was younger. And I would set up these really big scenes in my room, and I would just like set them all up all over the place, and then that was it. That was the end of the game. Like I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't necessarily make them like fight each other or anything like that. And they would just like this battalion was coming in from this side, and then this battalion was coming in from this side. They were going to meet here, and okay, that's it. Game is over. Like, all right. And but I used to do that with my Star Wars figures too, and like same thing with Legos. You set up these like big plans, and I think our creative minds, that's how they kind of worked. Like that's what we wanted. We wanted the planning process. We wanted to set it all up the way we imagined it.
Yeah.
And then the boom, boom, boom was not as interesting to us. Right. Like some kids, that's all it was. It was all about the beating up against each other and stuff. For us, it was more about the bigger picture.
Yeah. Yeah. So, interesting.
These are well preserved too. Your mom did a good job.
Tell me about it.
Even though they're in a bin, like I got a big helicopter and the blades are all kind of bent up and stuff, but I'm sure they could be kind of fixed. But I mean, they're still here. My kids played with them when they were little, and it's fun.
So good. I love it. Absolutely love it. Oh my God. There he is. Whew. Of course you ended on Rex. Look at you. You're making me all emotional. Seriously, Nate, you're wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
Thanks,
I got messages. I got messages today, actually, like some direct messages like, oh my gosh, you're going to talk to Nate, one of the greatest humans. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. You're a positive light, positive influence, absolutely fantastic photographer.
Thank you so much.
And really, really appreciate you being on here. I know, again, we've talked about this with you. You're more of a hobbyist. Do you have any other medias or anything that you use that you would like to shout out, or like just your Instagram page?
Yep, mainly an Instagram page. If I'm not there, I'm on it's called the Cabal, which is a Mythic Legions kind of Facebook page. But that's really it. Just those two spots. I was gonna, I tried doing the TikTok thing a little bit, but again, I'm not good with the video. I just don't take the time to do it, so I'm really not on there. Mainly IG. Yep.
Speaking of, Raisha's killing it with TikTok right now, right?
Raisha, yeah.
Raisha is like destroying it. Why are they calling her Raisha? Why did I screw that?
Rai's a little guy, so it might be that part too.
But yeah, it's like she's like just doing all this toy photography TikTok. I'm like, what is going on? You have so many it's just wild. I just can't. I get it. I can't get into that either.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It's
one
too
more
much.
Thing. I don't have time.
It's too much. I know. I get that 100%.
I tried taking like a video of me. It was usually in the water, and I've almost killed my phone twice. So we're not.
Yeah, she tried.
Yeah.
A for effort.
No worries. And Nate, we're gonna sound off. This is way and then we'll be good. And you
cool. Thank you again so much, you guys. I really enjoyed it.
Yep.
Well, y'all, thank you for listening to another wonderful episode of the combined SBN F-Stop Rebel podcast. Truly a pleasure. I hope you enjoyed everything. Remember, please do not grow up. It's a waste of time. I am Scott, F-Stop Rebel, and there's obviously Steph.
Yep, I'm still here, and you can find me at Slag My Thrilla or the SBN. You'll see all the credits on the end, but I always want to say, just guys, stay awesome and keep it up.